This morning, I heard a variation on a Cardinal song that I had never heard before. And it got me wondering if this was a common expected song this time of year. Like maybe it's something that they sing once their kids have left the nest, like, woohoo, we did it. Or maybe it was a song or a vocalization that was indicating that there was some kind of danger in the area or that they were particularly excited about something. I realized I didn't know the answer to this question. And so it made me really curious to want to get to know the cardinal even more intimately than I already do. Knowing if a bird vocalization is part of the baseline for a particular area at a particular time of year, at a particular time of day, can help us to know if there might be danger in the area, if we hear something that's out of baseline. But I think, even more interestingly, that it can help us to become even more familiar, more closely related to the birds and the animals in our areas. Join me today for the Mindful Bird Sit as we delve more deeply into these topics. Hey there, welcome to the Mindful Bird Sit. If you're new here, my name is Kristi, and I help people connect more deeply to birds and nature while boosting their confidence, elevating their skills, and helping them to fall more in love with life. If that's something you'd like to do, please consider subscribing and sticking around. Or you can check out any number of my online courses, like Identify Any Bird Anywhere. All right, let's get started. I was just saying that today we're going to be focusing on baseline with the intention, with the intention of going deeper, not just to hear if there's danger in the area. So we're focusing on baseline to deepen our connection and our relatedness, our familiarity and sense of family with the birds in our area. So let's take a nice deep breath and let it go. And do that one more time, just to kind of get ourselves present and connected with each other and in this moment. And then if you will, you can try this out. You can take an in-breath of 4 counts. So nice and slow, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hold it for 3 or 4 seconds. And let it go for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so try that for the next couple of breaths. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, and then exhale for 4. And if your variation, if you can inhale longer and hold it longer, do that. But try and make each count matching for this one. We'll just kind of stabilize and steady the rhythm of our breath right now. Great work. All right. So now let's bring our attention in, and we've connected with our breath already. And so let's send our attention to our heart. You can close your eyes if you want to, if that's easier for you. And if not, keep them open. If your eyes are open, maybe you can start off by going into owl eyes, into a softened vision while you're sitting there. But if you want to close your eyes, you can put your hand on your heart if that helps you to connect with your heart. Just see if you can feel the rhythm of your own heartbeat right now. And just spend a couple breaths feeling your heart rhythm. Beautiful. So we've taken a moment to connect with our breath and the air as it enters our lungs from the world outside of us, and then becoming a part of us, and then being shared again with the world from us. And then now to our heartbeat and our heart rhythm. And now let's go ahead and just take a moment to scan your own body. So touching in with those places in your body that you might not normally give attention to, like maybe the crown of your head. You can also give some attention to your ears, maybe even to your throat for a moment if you like, your clavicle. How about your armpit? How many of us give much attention to our armpits? Spend a little time just becoming familiar with your own armpit this morning. It certainly helps us out a lot in ways we don't realize, maybe, or don't think about, I should say. And yeah, just go ahead through the rest of your body and exploring those places that might even cause you to giggle, like you just did with your armpit. It's just like, wow, my armpit, you know? So find other places in your body that make you giggle and get to know them for a moment. And you can even ask yourself the question, like, what does it feel like to be this part of my body today? What is the experience of this part of my body right now? Nice work. All right. So now you can go ahead and actually with our eyes, if some of you still have your eyes closed, you can go ahead and keep them closed. And those who have your eyes open, that's perfectly fine. Stay in owl eyes. And we're just going to focus our attention on our ears for just a moment and do a nice a scan of your environment. You can either choose to go near to far if you want to, or you can just do a big kind of swath of the area around you. So starting in front of you and then going all the way around you, choosing to like just take everything in. But do it nice and slow. Give yourself like maybe a full minute to explore the sounds in the area around you. Okay, good. We'll spend more time on that this morning. So when you feel ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes for those whose eyes are closed and find a point off in the distance anywhere from about 10 to 20 or 30 feet. And it's just going to be a point that your eyes can easily focus on. You can really identify it. Notice if it's in the shape of a circle, a square, a triangle, a funky shape. Give your full attention to that one spot on the landscape right now. And then slowly, we'll try this today actually. I've never done this before, but it just came to me. Imagine like a spiral. So we're going to expand ourselves out using our owl eyes. We're going to soften our vision as we go, but we'll slowly start to spiral outward from the center of that point and just allow your vision to get softer and softer and more expanded with each kind of passing of that spiral as you get out further and further and further until you've gotten to the furthest reaches of your vision on either side. And then when you've reached that point, you can just rest there for a few moments. Just take everything in nice and gently. Beautiful. And just notice who starts to show up. Maybe it's a particular leaf moving you hadn't noticed before, or maybe it's a bird flying by. Could be a little flicker of a rabbit's ear, whatever it may be. Just welcome that into your experience and your environment today. Nice. And then just take a moment to allow everything to be part of your experience. So incorporating the sights along with the sounds and the smells and remembering your breath and your heartbeat. Just allow it all to be part of your experience in this moment. Okay, good work. So because our focus today is going to be on our ears, if you are inside, it would be good to get yourself in a position where you can have your window open or cracked a little bit so that you can hear the outside world. And we're going to start by focusing first. And I think, again, with this practice today, our it's going to be good to stay in owl eyes as much as possible. But don't be hard on yourself if you can't, or if your vision shifts, it's totally fine. Um, but we'll begin first by listening for the sounds that are in front of us. So it can be anywhere from like right in front of you directly to a mile away if you can see that far. So what I want you to do is, I mean, hear that far. What I want you to do is listen for, and we're listening for the baseline, listening for the familiar, the common, the ordinary, what's expected for this time of day, this time of year on your landscape. And so we're just going to have kind of like tunnel vision, but it'll be tunnel listening for all the sounds that are right in front of us. Maybe like, I don't know, you could do like an arms, maybe not full arms distance apart, but like maybe one arm's length in front of you and going outwards. And just listen for who you know, who's familiar out there right now in front of you. And let's just get to know them, become familiar, like friendly with them right now. And I'll let you stay in that place for about 2 minutes, nice and silent, just listening in front. One thing I'll just interject here for a moment is that the aspect of this particular part of the practice that aligns this with a mindfulness practice is that it's that work or that effort to bring your attention back to the zone that we're focusing in. So you might have something that distracts you, that calls your attention to the right or the left or behind you. And of course, if you need to check it out, check it out. But do your best to keep bringing yourself back to only the sounds that are in that particular pathway in front of you for right now. Okay, good. So you can complete your time listening forward. And now we're going to shift over to our right. So, kind of starting at that point you ended with, like in that sort of trajectory you were listening in, and then another kind of arm's distance worth out toward your right. So, same as before, listening for the familiar sounds, the baseline sounds in your environment right now, as far as you can hear. I'm gonna add one thing here. So, if you hear a bird or a sound, maybe it's a dog that is one of the familiar baseline sounds you used to hearing, just ask yourself, like, how, like, do I really know this sound? You know, is this really the same as it's always been this time of day, this time of year? Or is there something a little different about it this time? Nice work. All right, now we're going to shift our awareness and our attention with our ears behind us. So you don't have to turn around, but this one might be a bit more challenging than the others because if your eyes are facing forward, you want your ears to be listening behind you. So you could choose to close your eyes if you want, or you can keep them open for an extra challenge. So same, listening for the familiar in the sounds behind you. All right. Good work. So the next will be the sounds off to our left. So stretching your ears. And you don't have to necessarily go very far. You can even stay close if that just feels better to you. But listening to the sounds that are over to your left for anyone familiar, ordinary, commonplace, animal, human, human made, bird, insect, plant, whatever it might be. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so for our final round, going to invite you to listen for sounds that are so common, so familiar that you might actually just drown them out. You might just disregard them completely as even sounds because they've just become part of the background noise. So do a gentle scan of every area and just ask yourself, like, is there something here that I'm not hearing, but is actually like maybe even quite loud, but you just blend it into the background. Okay, everybody, take the next couple of minutes or moments, and if you'd like, you can offer gratitude or a blessing to all those ones that you connected with this morning, that you became more familiar with. All right. So, for anyone who needs to head out, thank you for coming. But everyone is invited to stay for our chat at the end. Doesn't mean you have to chat. You can just stay and observe and listen and participate that way. Um, and let's see a show of hands for all of those who, um, though you were doing your best to listen for the baseline, common, familiar sounds, you actually found yourself hearing and listening to the disturbance sounds, the sounds that were like new and unfamiliar. Anyone, did that happen to anybody? Yeah, a couple. Yeah. Okay, nice. Great. All right, who would like to share? And you want to, oh, did you want to start us off, Ann? No, you're good. Okay, okay, great. Who wants to share about their experience from this morning? Oh, Anne Marie, yeah, sorry, it was a little shady there. You go for it.
Well, I like this practice, and I often do it when I get to my sit spot, just so I can get in touch with who's there and get a feeling of it. But that's usually a little closer to the woods. So this was a different place up top in my deck. Um, so the heat pump behind me was kind of irritating me, but it's always there. So that's one that I kind of tune out, I guess, and don't think about. But because I was focusing and trying to hear something behind me, that's like all I could hear behind me, or if the road. But then gradually, I guess after I dismissed that and my body relaxed, then I can hear further. And even though it's really hot and humid, there the birds are still moving around a lot. I was surprised because sometimes they just get quiet and sit, but at this point they're still singing and chasing each other around. And poor morning doves about to have more babies probably because they're trying to copulate and things like that. So, but it was joyful because at this point when I was listening, I definitely had a calm baseline. I didn't feel a huge disturbance other than if one was like a mockingbird was chasing somebody else out of their area. But the rest of the birds didn't care. You know, they kept going about their business, and got distracted slightly because one of the little fawns ran across the yard when I wasn't in total owl eyes. But so you could definitely tell everybody seems to be at peace right now while I was doing my set, and there wasn't as much car traffic, and nobody is like really close mowing the lawn, so that's good too. So it was peaceful. It is helpful to have me be at baseline as well as the creatures. So bring me back to that if I was worried about different things that I have to do. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's so good. I'm glad you brought up the piece about doing this when you go to your sit spot because it's a really great practice to get into when you're either going to your sit spot or to a new area. If you're going to go birding somewhere and like as soon as you get out of the car, take just a moment or two and you can ask yourself the question of, are the sounds that I'm hearing right now, like, do I expect that this is like a baseline sound for this area, this time of year? And I think what happens, it's like what you were saying, Anne Marie, like that once you know the baseline sounds, you can almost settle in and kind of calm down and quiet yourself because you know that, all right, I've got a pulse or like a feeling on what's to be expected. You know, like if you're at a nature center and there might be like some activity over in a barn or some people mowing like one of the fields or something, you know that that's like part of the environment. Um, or where I'm working right now on a military base. Like if all of a sudden we hear shooting nearby, it's like, oh yeah, before we went out, we looked at the map and there's the range right over there, you know, like a mile away. And so when I hear gunshots, I'm not like, oh, where are they coming from? Or what's going on? You know, I think, okay, the range is over there. Like they're shooting and practicing right now. So um yeah, I think in a lot of ways, knowing baseline does help to quiet our minds and our hearts. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Hmm. Who else would like to share their experience? Yeah, Della, go for it.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely quiet here. The fog is rolling in, and you know that quiet you feel when when it gets really foggy. And the birds are definitely in baseline, with an added joyful uh, sounds of of the babies. I've got baby nuthatches and baby finches that are, just doing their thing. And you can tell they're babies because their feathers are kind of and they're fearless and they're joyful and there are numbers of them, larger numbers of them. And anyway, it's just been really fun and quieting. Yeah, very nice.
Oh, I love that. That's so sweet. Yeah, we had I don't, it's not super typical, but like the last 2 days that we were out on base, we it was so thick with fog, we actually had to pause for a portion of our transect because I could only see like 30 meters in front of me. Like that we could see the fog like rolling in, and all of a sudden it was just like not moving. And it was interesting to see like which birds kept singing and which birds chose to settle down for a little while until the fog cleared. And it took a good hour and a half for the fog to like lift and for visibility to return. But yeah, like the nighthawk was one I remember. Like I had been hearing it previous to the fog, and then like almost like the moment that I have in my notes, like when the fog lifted, the nighthawk was like back out at it. But like in what while the fog was there, the nighthawk wasn't out hunting or anything or calling. And yeah, I just thought it was like fun to like listen for the birds that maybe take advantage of the fog in some ways, and other birds that choose to just be like, nope, not right now. It's not our time. Yeah. That's sweet, Della. I'm glad you have one of those mornings right now. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? Who else wants to share their experience? Good to see you, Cindy, by the way. It's been a little bit. Hi. Um, I was trying to think there was something from mine this morning. It was back in the beginning when we first started it. What was it? Um, Oh, part of it's the road noise. I think that for me is the sound that because there's an off ramp like right on the other side of the house here, and then over there is like a main road about a block away. I can actually see the cars when they pass sort of like through the neighbors' like yards and whatnot. Um, but during this time of day, it's often so loud with cars that I just forget that they're there. But when I was actually like looking, I chose, I think, for my first couple points, maybe to keep my eyes open. And when I was looking, I could see the trucks and cars, and I was like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. Like there's trucks over there. I'm curious, like, did anyone hear a sound like a cardinal or some bird that you're really familiar with, and maybe stay with that for a minute or two and discover anything new or unique or something that stood out to you about a bird that's really very familiar to you? Yeah, and go ahead, Anne.
It was the house sparrow.
Oh,
And it was like, because that's just always, it's baseline. They're always there, but I've never sat. I mean, it's like, oh, house sparrow. Yeah. And it's like, okay, is this baseline? And that's what I said, is this baseline? I mean, am I always hearing this, and why? Yeah. And it's this, so it's not this time of the year, and they just chirp, 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 chirp. So it was the house sparrow. So
nice. Good job for asking yourself that question, because sometimes it is like I think I can make assumptions about, oh yeah, the cardinal's always singing over here, the catbird or whatever. But it's like, does it really always? Or like, does it pause? Like when, I mean, I'm not out here all day long, so I'm not observing them like 24/7, but yeah, just kind of like testing those assumptions that we make about the birds in our area and how we can become. I know my old friend and teacher Gilbert Walking Bull used to always speak about, he called them our relations, whenever he talked about anything in nature, it was just like our relations. And I think about that word. I actually looked it up this morning, just the word, like the etymology of the word, both the word familiar and the word relations. And relations, there was actually, I didn't have as much time to look up relations, but that one has to do with connection, having a connection with something. And familiar, I love familiar because it's the meaning of that is things known from long association. And also friendly is a word that's connected with familiar. So I really like the word familiar, becoming familiar or like family with the world around us, especially our own home environment. Yeah. Lovely. Anybody else? Yeah, Linda and then Joy, please.
Well, it was very, very quiet here today. We had uh, it's kind of uncommon. It's not totally uncommon. It happens here in June. We had a winter storm move in here the last 4 days, and Glacier Park has been most of it's closed because of snow, heavy snow, and it's been really cold here, like 32 degrees and raining, pretty much, which we really needed. But it's still cold this morning. It was 38 degrees. It's up in the 40s now, but the birds are so quiet. I mean, it's just remarkably quiet, except when you talk about familiar, the robin. The robin here is like you talk about the cardinal there. The robin is like that here, except this year even more so. I've been seeing more robins and hearing more robins. And this morning it was only a robin and it would just do a little cheery, then it would stop. And then a few minutes later it'd try again. Cheery up, and it stopped. It was like, no, it's too cold. It's too cold. I mean, I don't know why it was doing that, but that's what it was doing. But I could hear it. And I have baby robins around, and I also have baby flickers in a tree in the yard, but they were very quiet this morning. So I don't know if they fledged like gone during the cold, or if they're just not using the energy right now because it's cold. It's just very quiet. And a couple of deer came through with their babies of the year, and so that was very cool. But it was just very like reassuring. When I don't hear any birds, I start thinking, "Oh no, what's going on?" But because even before a thunderstorm, they'll still be calling until just before the storm, and then they'll stop. But anyway, it was very reassuring to hear the robin, even if he didn't feel like singing a full song. But I have noticed this year, since I've seen so many robins and heard so many, they have an incredible variety of songs and calls that I had no idea about. So I was thinking about that while you were talking today. It's so familiar to me. It's the one of the few birds that I've had. I grew up in Northern Illinois. I lived 20 years in Colorado. And then I've lived 30 years up here. And I always hear robins. That's one of the few birds that's everywhere. But now I'm hearing all these variations in song. So it makes me wonder, are there robins from the South that came up here now? I always think of accents from or twangs or whatever from the South, or are they just learning new songs, or have I just not noticed it? It's just kind of intriguing to me to think about that.
Oh, good job asking all those great questions. I love hearing that. It reminds me of one of my very first students. I think I've probably shared various stories about her from time to time. If you ever took the birdsong class, she's the one, Andrea Avantaggio, who owned Maria's Bookshop. She's the one I shared the story about the American Dipper. And Andrea, she was going to a book, some kind of conference for like bookstore owners. And she lived in Colorado and then went to this conference in New York. And it was during the master's class that she was taking with me. And um, she said she woke up in the morning before she had to be anywhere, and she went for a walk, on like a local park. And she was just feeling like sort of lonely, like didn't know anybody there, was like away from her family. And then all of a sudden, like on her walk, she heard the robin sing. And then she heard like a towhee sing, and she was just like, "Oh, I do have friends here, like I'm not alone, and it is familiar." And yeah, it just brought her this, like, again, like that sense of peace and belonging, and knowing that she wasn't necessarily home, but she felt like that sense of home because of the birds. And the robin was one of those birds that in a lot of places does carry across the country. So yeah, that's really sweet, Linda. Yeah, yeah. Joy, please go for it. Thanks, Linda.
Very quiet here too, probably because of the heat rather than the cold, but that's the way it is. But I do have my good friend, the red-eyed vireo, who is constantly non-stop singing and singing and singing. And I was sort of trying to, when he did take a break, how many seconds, and that kind of thing. And I did find some little chirps rather than the slurry notes that I perhaps hadn't noticed as much before. And then all of a sudden he completely stopped. And it was more than 2 minutes. And I thought, what's happened? And then it was almost a relief. He started up again, but further away. So I thought, okay, he's just moved to a different tree. All is well. And so that was basically my experience this morning.
Oh, I love hearing that. Yeah, it's interesting. I think sometimes, especially the birds that I'm not saying that you ever get annoyed with the red-eyed vireo or anything, but there are some birds who can be so constant, it can make it hard to hear other birds and whatnot. But then all of a sudden, when their voice is gone from the environment, when it's no longer there, there is that, whether we're conscious of it or not. And this morning, you may have been more conscious of it because we're like focused on listening to them, that it's like, all right, what's going on? Like something's different, something's not in baseline, right? Because like for your area, like to hear the red-eyed vireo probably quite often throughout the day is very much baseline. And yeah, when the red-eyed vireo is not singing, it's like, hang on, what's going on here? Oh, that's good, Joy. Thank you. Rad. Yeah, Julia, go for it.
Well, I'm glad Linda mentioned the robin because uh, uh, over the last week or so, I've just noticed that robins just sing all the time. It's not just a morning song or eat. They always sit up on the roof and sing in the evening. But I hear them during the day in the afternoon. But I had no now I notice that I don't hear robins this time of day. I never hear robins when we're meeting. And so that's interesting. Cardinals tend to vocalize around this time, or they'll, chirp and talk to each other rather than just sit and hold forth their song. But so much of my bass line, I hear the traffic on the interstate in the distance. There's that hum, and there's, as usual, a lawnmower, and there was a chainsaw, and I'm rather irritated. That's for me to work with. Uh, that so much of the baseline of our sound now is these gasoline engines, and but also baseline for our time here is that the recycling truck goes through the neighborhood, and it just went through. So I've had all my baseline for this
all,
morning.
all of your modern human baseline experiences for the day. You can check all those boxes off. Like all is well in the human world today. Well, in your neighborhood right now in this moment.
I know when I was a child and growing up on the farm, in the evening, if we just sit on the porch and we could hear traffic in the distance on the highway. And I loved that sound. I thought it was so exotic, people going somewhere. And now it's so ordinary. So
Yeah. Kind
not
of,
so much
yeah.
anymore.
Interesting. That's interesting to like, I wonder what that would be like to have that, like to bring back that child, like, it's not wonder, but it's like fascination with the sound again, like because it's just the meaning that we've put on it, that changes that all. It's like when I remember the very first time I ever saw a Eurasian collared dove. And I was just like, I didn't even know they existed. It was the first time I moved to Colorado and I saw this like bird up in the tree. And I'm like, that's a dove, but I don't even know what kind it is. It's so pretty. It's like gorgeous. And I was just like so excited about it. And I went and told one of the people on the bird walk and I was just like, you guys, I saw this bird and I described it to them. And they're like, oh, that's an Eurasian collared dove. Ugh. And they like got all like down on it. And I was just like, oh, like, and I was like, oh, it's a bad bird, but like I had had this like total love and like it was just such a beautiful bird. Like if you've ever like never known what you were looking at with the story around what the Eurasian collared dove is, and you look at it for the first time, it's just like it's a really beautiful bird, and I don't know, I guess sometimes I like living in that kind of a world, I had a similar experience when I was a kid. I remember that my sister and I, for like a certain age, we shared the same bed until like we were like, I don't know, 3 and 4 or something like that. And there was like I think my bed was like a queen size bed. It ended up becoming my bed, but like when we were little, we had the same bed, and we would sometimes wake up really early in the morning. And I remember watching, and there wasn't much traffic outside in the road where I used to live. There is now, but there used to not be. But and so we would wait. It was like 5 in the morning, and the room was still dark, and you would see like the light of the car as it went across on the wall, and it would make the shape. And we would just sit there for like an hour and just like watch the shapes go by, and then watch like if there was two of them going by and if it would catch the other one, and like just this whole wonder around like the cars and like what they were to a kid's mind, and yeah, I don't know. I think that's a really like a wonderful, full of wonder place to live. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Julia. It gives like a different perspective on highway traffic noise. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. I feel like there was something else I wanted to tell you guys about. Probably lost it. Oh, I know what it was. Um, for my own sort of science experiment, I'm curious what's going to happen over the next couple of days with the birds and their singing with the heat, because it's gonna for us down here, it's gonna get to like I think 101 today and 102 tomorrow. And so I'm just been curious, like, will the birds keep singing in the middle of the day? Will they go quiet? I remember when we were in Africa and it was very, very hot. I honestly don't, but back then I wasn't as attentive to the birds. So I don't remember what the birds were doing in the middle of the day, but I know everybody, like all the animals were just like hunkered, like even us as humans, like nobody wanted to go out during the middle of the day. We were just like seek shelter, hide. And that's why everyone hunted at night. All the animals were like hunting at night and whatever, and drinking from water holes at night because it's just like you couldn't really function during the day. So I'm kind of curious, like what the birds are going to do. So if anyone is living in an area that's going to experience some of these hot temperatures, and you happen to be out during that time of day, just keep your ears tuned in and let me know what you hear. Let me know, like, oh yeah, this bird was singing, or that bird was singing, or like nobody was singing. You know, yeah. All right, and everybody else who gets to have some coolness for a little while, enjoy it, soak it up. It might be, yeah. Linda, I think you won the prize for cold. Della's starting to take off one of her jackets. That's great. I don't know if you saw that, Linda. You weren't here right away, but we noticed that Della had, I think, 4 different jackets on this morning. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's so awesome. Yeah, I know. And right, Anne just wants to take off her clothes, right? Yeah, exactly. Naked bird sit. All right, you guys, much love. Enjoy your cooking, everybody, and enjoy everything you're doing. Have fun. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.